Hey, it's Tpok. It's been a while for Leaves. Completely forgot about where we left off. And it was this. So, yeah. I was impatient now. I denied myself for too long. I wanted to penetrate her, taste her insides. And this time I wasn't taking no for an answer. And in any case, she hadn't said no this entire time. Only yes please and yes more. So with this single thrust, I pushed myself all the way in. The scream that came from her lips was part in pain, mostly in indescribable pleasure. I could see tears foaming and falling from her eyes. Tears of joy, tears of rapture. And she was so warm and tight inside that I felt like I'd died and gone to heaven. I started thrusting wildly. The world shrank down until it was just this room. Just this bed. Just her softness clutching my hardness inside of her. We were less than animals now, rotting away. And wasn't that just fine? Every single time I thrust all the way in, she came up to meet me. Every single time I almost pulled all the way out, she was right there with me. And every single motion that I made, she cried out with such urgency that I thought surely her little body must break. Yet I kept ravaging her, thrusting with all my strength, pulling out, thrusting again like a battering ram. But she just took it, entrusting herself to me, telling me with all her soul to do whatever I wanted to her. My hands moved to her breasts. I grasped them gently, claiming them for my own, caressing them with indescribable emotion. Then I bent down and gave her a deep kiss. Her cries continued unabated, only slightly muffled by the pleasure of my lips on hers. I thrust my tongue inside of her mouth, scraped against her tongue, which yielded to me with a quaver. She just kept gasping. I could feel her juices running down my shaft and onto my balls. They were warm and sticky. I groaned with the pleasure of it all. I pulled out of her just a little, took her ankles and raised her legs high. She gave no resistance. Her submission was total. I could feel all of her trembling with pleasure. I could feel all of her begging for release. "Hold your legs like this for me," I said to her gently. And through hazy, pleasure-intoxicated eyes, Tuka peered at me once, then nodded and obediently did as she was told. Now she was split wide open before me, her legs up in the air, the pink flower of her womanhood spread wide open by my hardness, covering my shaft with her juices, yielding to my every desire. No man could resist this invitation. I'd meant to be gentle, but faced with this, I reacted instinctively. I pistoned in and out of her with all my strength, and I let out an animal moan. As for Tuka, she just lay there and took it, expectantly, eyes closed, trembling with pleasure. "Here I am. Take me. Do your worst. I am yours," I could hear her body saying. I felt my heart pounding just as hard as I was pounding into her. I felt her legs tremble with the violence of our sex, and felt my own legs giving way as well. I had to prop myself up to keep thrusting. Sweat beaded on my brow and dropped down, making little splashes on her soft pink skin. My sweat on her sweat, my hardness in her softness. She kept screaming, calling my name incoherently at first, then moaning without being able to form intelligible syllables at all. And my own moans matched hers. She managed between moans. Tomohiro. It was all I could do not tempting myself into her depths the moment she called my name. She continued, I love you. I love you, Tomohiro. Tuka, I responded. I was rapidly reaching the point of no return. My strokes sped up furiously. I could feel myself driven to the edge, losing my balance. I believe, Tuka gasped. She screamed, after taking a particularly hard thrust. I believe in you, Tomohiro. This was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't see straight in front of me. The entire world was now just my penis and her vagina, nothing more. This was the end. White out. Okay. She let out a long, incoherent howl of surrender and loss as I roughly pulled all the way out of her. And she cried out again when she felt my hot seed splatter all over her belly. From her pubic hair all the way up to her breasts, there wasn't a part of her that wasn't covered with my cum. I moaned as I spent the last of myself. My bowels had almost completely emptied themselves in my first spurts. This last one was just a few drops that hit Tuka in the cheek. Then I collapsed on top of her, totally spent. Tomohiro, she sighed, putting her arms around me. Yeah, I finally managed after a long silence. I love you, she said between gasps for breath. Yeah, I repeated dumbly. Say it too, Tuka urged gently, but I didn't say anything at all. She said again, Come on, Tomohiro, say the same thing to me. Even in the afterglow of our lovemaking, even with her little body trembling from the aftershocks, her eyes were sharp as they peered at me. So I gasped, Yeah, me too. She said nothing, and waited, expectantly. Me too, I repeated. Did I spend all my days with Tuka for all this time merely out of inertia or laziness? Merely because we were both orphans or something like that? I said, faltering. Did we never part ways merely because we'd known each other forever? Merely because we'd never found a suitable reason to break up? No. None of that was true. I knew that now. Come on, Tomohiro, Tuka whispered. For a moment I found myself unable to say anything. I knew. I'd always known. I'd known what the answer to this question was from the beginning of it all. I shouldn't have even had to think about it. That's how obvious it should have been. So when I said I love you, it came from within me like it was the most natural thing in the world. There was no need for my brain to interfere. No need to weave theories and traps around and emergency exits. This came from my heart. Tomohiro, Tuka managed, clearly on the verge of tears again. No kidding. I nodded before I could even think about doing anything else. And when I smiled at her, it was the smile of a man to his beloved woman. Okay. Ave atque vale. I heard a loud tumult, each sound crisp and clear. The chirping of birds, the chatter of pedestrians, the clickety-clack of commuter rail, the daybreak of the world. These were the sounds of morning. I groaned a little. I opened my eyes a crack. White light was flooding into the apartment. and I found myself in bed. I looked around. Sunlight was streaming in through the apartment's only window, cutting in obliquely through the dusty air. And though the floor was filthy and littered with debris, though the air was dusty and the walls were cracked, this place felt like hollowed ground. My heart swelled and tears came to my eyes. The entire apartment smelled fresh, like a glorious new beginning, when in fact it should have been stinking with cigarette smoke and moldy bread. I heard Tuka sleeping peacefully beside me. I turned to face her. I saw how happy she looked, how safe and how secure. Then I realized that I'd let her use my arm as a pillow again. I had no recollection of this. My arm was numb alright, numb and tingling under Tuka's head. I could feel sharp pinpricks all over, shooting through that arm like electric shock. Other than that, I couldn't feel a thing. This was the same as always, and yet something was different. I laughed then. I threw back my head and laughed in earnest. Came Tuka's sleepy voice. What's the matter, you? I turned to face her again. I was still chuckling a bit, and saw the look of slight annoyance in her eyes. Come on, man. Why are you laughing? Oh, simple. Simple. This, I managed between laughs, pointing at my arm under her head. Oh, she murmured. Then she burst out laughing too. "Aw, you've gone numb again, honey?" she asked. "Isn't this exactly the same as last time?" "Yeah, that's why I'm laughing," I answered her lightly. "You're right, that is funny," she agreed with me. "Yeah," I finished. Then a mean thought occurred to me. It was a really good thought. This was a huge opportunity. Mustn't let it go to waste. So with all the strength I had, I jerked my right arm from under her head. Except this time around, I made sure it didn't go sailing into a bedpost. And then Tuka's head smacked into the hard bedding. "Ow, that hurt," she protested. I laughed. "That's payback for the last time." "Man, that's mean," she pouted. "That isn't fair. That just isn't fair. Cruel and unusual punishment, man. Ow." Tuka rubbed her neck a little as she complained. I laughed. "I have no clue what you're talking about, idiot." "Man, I'm getting real mad now, so you just remember that, Tuka retorted. I smirked. "Whatever you say. Anyways, I'm quits with this. So that's that." Ugh, Tuka complained. "You're so evil." How long had it been since I'd felt like this? For a moment, I found myself unable to say anything. From beside me, Tuka asked, "Why are you climbing up all of a sudden?" "Oh," I replied quietly, "it's such a beautiful morning." "It really is," Tuka murmured in response. "Yeah, it felt like it had been forever. But in actuality, all my mornings used to be like this just about a month before. And before that too. But now this particular dawn seemed to be the most precious thing in the world. Because compared to a month ago, we were all of us changed, Tuka, Matsuri, and I. You can change in no time at all. But then it takes you a long time to get back to where you used to be. And there's no guarantee that you'll ever get back there, no matter how much time and effort you spend. No. Actually, the truth is that it's impossible to go back. Better just to accept the change. I need to embrace it, make it my own, and never run away. I needed to keep walking forward, on the path I was meant to tread. Tuka had often asked me, "Do you love me?" And last night I answered her once and for all with my body and soul. I loved her. I'd die for her. She was as important to me as I was important to her. I remembered. Do you plan on protecting her? Do you plan on riding to her rescue if need be? Matsuri had once demanded of me. Now I could answer from the bottom of my heart. Yes. No more need for justifications and angry recriminations. No more need for loopholes and emergency exits that were just cowardice by another name. And if people wanted to say disparaging things about me behind my back, so be it. Let them come. Let them watch me as we walk forward hand in hand on this road. This road meant for just Tuka and me. You'll come with me, right, Tuka? If by my life or death I can protect you, then I'd gladly make that choice. So I'm down on bended knee. Can you find it in you to love a pathetic, indecisive man like me? Can you find it in you to walk this road with me until the end of our days? Can you find it in you to share your heart and soul with me every day for the rest of our lives? Hey, what's the matter? Tuka asked me with heartwarming concern. You got this weird look on your face. Are you sick? Want me to get you an aspirin or something? Hey, Tuka, I said hesitantly. Yes, sir, she replied brightly. From now on, I started, taking a deep breath. I could feel my heart thudding and my mind whirling with the heaviness of what I was about to say. My chest seemed to tighten up. I found it hard to breathe. From now on, she echoed quizzically. Yeah, I managed. I couldn't bear it any longer. I started crying. I was too embarrassed to show Tuka this, so I embraced her with all my strength, even though my right arm was still numb and didn't feel much. I felt her stiffen a bit, and then relax completely. From now on, until the end of our days, I whispered into her ear, let's stay together. My voice was quavering, so was my body. I couldn't control it. Tuka probably knew that I was crying. I didn't care. From now on, until the end of our days, let's always live together, I finally managed. My tears ran down my cheeks and onto Tuka's face. Yes, oh yes, of course, let's always live together, Tuka said in response, her voice shaking at least as badly as mine. Yes, let's, I barely managed to say. Tuka was crying too by now. Our tears intermixed on Tuka's cheek, dripping down onto the bed. Between sobs, Tuka managed, Thank you, Tomohiro, thank you so much. And between sobs, I managed, Thank you, Tuka, for saying yes to me. Thank you. Yes, I do, Tuka cried. Yes, I do. And we went on crying together, our arms around each other. No more need to run or hide anymore. No more need for explanations or recriminations or justifications. Just our hearts beating in rhythm side by side. And at this time, this was the truth. But truth has this strange tendency, you know? To twist and turn to falsify itself before the end. Huh? Totally thought it was gonna end there. Now I have no idea how much longer there is. Okay, well, I'm gonna end it here. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. And I'll see you next time. Probably gonna end soon. I thought it was gonna end this time. So next time, probably. Yeah.